can you differentiate the Snyder scenes from the Whedon scenes, and which approach did you think was more effective? What do you think, Michael?
I guess to a certain degree, yes, because of course the tone was already set by the time Joss Whedon had came on. So what struck me, or I guess stood out to me more, were probably dialogue stuff that seemed very Whedon-esque, because I've watched a ton of Whedon stuff. So like there were certain dialogue things where I was like, oh yeah, that's probably Whedon probably rewrote that, or Whedon probably. But what this movie proved to me mostly is not what stood out to me, is what I've been saying about Zack Snyder for a long time. Zack Snyder should be in a team. Zack Snyder needs somebody to do the story while he does the action. Yeah. Like, I've been saying that about Zack Snyder since like 300. Yeah. And this movie proved to me like, yeah, Zack Snyder needs to be in a team. Like, he needs to do like, okay, cool, I can do the action stuff because I can make action look cool. Like, the Amazons looked amazing. Yeah. Everything they went through, I was just like, wow. And they doubled down because they knew, like, look, if we're going to say DC is reactionary, one thing, this would have had way more Amazons. but they made sure to, like, you know, kind of like put them and feature them in a way where it was cool. But I think most of the stuff when it comes to Joss Whedon was probably, that I really noticed, was the moments where they were all together just being people. Yeah. Because that's something that Zack doesn't really do. Right. And I think this just goes to something that I've been saying for a long time. Zack, kind of like you have the Russo brothers, or you have the Coen brothers. You have, like, it's probably a situation where you need something where it's like, Zack Snyder and so and so. Yeah. And then so and so can do the story and they can direct the actors. Kind of like we were talking about with Phantom Menace. Like, what if George Lucas did all of the effects and did all the visualization, while Steven Spielberg directed the actors? Yeah. What would we have come up with?
And I feel like to some degree, there's some of that in Wonder Woman. We got that in some way in Wonder Woman, because Zack Snyder did have a lot to do with some of those action sequences. Maybe not directing them, but helping
kind of like
dream them up
or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's kind of, and I mean, that might be like a step back or a pay cut. But I think if you look at legacy of your films, if you can step back and be like, okay, me and someone else, it comes out good, because Wonder Woman was great. That's another movie that I love. Yeah. So, and I mean, overall, there's all this talk about DC. If you look, all right, they have 5 movies. They got Man of Steel, they got BVS, they got Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League. Out of those, I like 3 and slight possible with Suicide Squad. Right. So if you like 3 out of 5 movies, is the franchise really in as much trouble as people say, or is it like a headline thing? Right. But yeah, I think when the team is together and they're just being people, I think that's the Whedon stuff, and that stood out to me as like the stuff that shined, where you had Aquaman with the lasso around him, stuff like that, and when Batman had the bruises and Wonder Woman came, like those kind of like we're heroes, but we're heroes relating to each other's stuff.
It felt like Buffy hanging out with the Scooby Gang talking. Yeah.
What did you think, Daryl? Can you tell the difference?
For the most part, although I was surprised to find out later that the opening scene with Batman catching the parademon and using that criminal as bait and stuff like that, Whedon actually directed that.
That's what I heard too.
And that surprised me, because that felt like a Snyder scene to me.
Okay.
But for the most part, I mean, I'm right in there with Michael. I think all the dialogue scenes definitely feel like Whedon.
I heard a lot of the dialogue was rewritten.
Yeah, I mean, he was hired to do that when Zack Snyder was still on board.
Yes.
Before his tragedy happened. So that made sense. Like, the one bit that I don't know who did this one, maybe Whedon, but the one bit that I would love to know is when Diana is talking with Cyborg on the computer. Okay. And he says, "Why should I trust you?"
Yeah.
And then she says, "Because if I wanted to attack you, I would have done it by the lake." I was just like, oh, that's so cool.
That was very cool.
Yeah. Who came up with that?
Michael, you made me think of something and maybe kind of define in my head why I generally respond so well to Zack Snyder films and respond very poorly to Joss Whedon films. And it's because I think Joss Whedon sets out to make films and shows that are super approachable, and you just leave the theater going like, I feel good. Right, like I just watched an episode of Firefly.
You don't like to feel good,
and I feel good. Well,
I hate feeling good.
Yeah, who wants to feel good?
Stupid happiness.
Yeah, but when I leave a Zack Snyder film, I always am thinking, "Wow, what was all that? There's something that is being said there that I need to poke at some more. I need to like sit with that because he was saying something about the world and about how human beings consider the world that I'm not quite sure I understand yet. And now I might need to watch it over again." And I think the difference between those two approaches to filmmaking for me is so different. So there's just a stark contrast to one another. What I wish had happened was that I wish Warner Brothers had brought both of them in and said, Zach, here's where you're awesome. Joss, here's where you're awesome. Make a film that combines both of those things. What I feel like we got from a process standpoint, and from what I understand, because I've listened to a bunch of podcasts on this, because again, I'm trying to figure out like what is going on, like what's going on here, like especially as somebody who has produced films and stuff like that. I'm thinking to myself like, what can I learn from this, you know? And it's just too disjointed. There's two visions for what this film is. They're coming from two separate people, and they're mishmashing it together. And I think that that's almost impossible to tell a story the way that I like stories to be told.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's I almost wish they would have gone with somebody else instead of Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Because
Patty Jenkins. Dude.
It's Patty Jenkins. It's been pretty.
Oh, but Patty Jenkins. Oh, that renegotiation.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know, she came in there.
Yeah.
It was probably the song was playing. Money, 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 money.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, because I got a hit on my hand.
Yeah. But with Joss, I think they've been pretty open about the fact that they went with him because he'd made the Avengers, and he was successful at that type of movie once before. Bad reason to pick somebody, I think.
A money-driven reason to pick somebody.
And again, a reactionary reason.
Absolutely.
And I think, although you can tell that the dialogue scenes are probably Joss's work, if you put it up against his previous work, it's not that great. I mean, there's some good dialogue, but there's way better dialogue in The Avengers and in Serenity and in even the Buffy TV show and stuff like that. The one question I would ask you, as liking Zack Snyder so much more than Joss Whedon, have you seen Serenity?
Actually, that's my favorite Joss Whedon.
Because I would argue that as of yet is the only true Joss Whedon movie.
Oh, really?
Because Marvel,
when
he made the Avengers, he has to fit the template.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
and that is of all the things I've seen of, because I remember I was told that Firefly was amazing. Right, I'm about to lose geek cred right now. I was told Firefly was amazing, and I watched the first episode, and I was like, "Where's amazing?" Because this is just like a cheesy, like space cowboy show.
Well, the only reason you're losing geek cred is for only watching one episode.
No, I didn't. I finished it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I finished it, and I understood afterwards. I understood that like once you got to understand those characters, right?
Yeah.
It was all about the characters.
It's the characters.
Yeah.
You want to come and hang out with these guys.
That's exactly right. You want to hang out with them. That's a perfect way of describing it. Yeah.
And that's where Joss Whedon shines.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, when I was watching the movie, I knew, because, I mean, I'm sure everybody's thinking, all right, 2 directors did this. And I'm watching it, I'm like, you know what? This came out way better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Like I thought this was good.
Yeah.
I thought the movie was going to be. I thought the movie was going to be like Zack Snyder scene, Joss scene, Zack Snyder scene, Zack Snyder. And I was like, you know what? This is okay.
Yeah.
Now it moves fast.
Yeah.
Because I noticed, and I haven't seen it a second time, but I noticed like they're like, this is going on, cool. This is going on, all right. This is good. So it's like they definitely move it at a pace where it's like, we hope you know at least a little something about DC. Because if you don't, you're on your own. But you know, I enjoyed it, and my wife, who isn't super, you know, DC, you know, aficionado, she liked it too. She really,
so did mine.
Especially that scene with the I wonder who did this, and it was probably Joss Whedon. I mean, probably Zack Snyder. The one with the machine gun and Wonder Woman. That was Zack Snyder. Cool.
Definitely.
That was Zack Snyder. Cool.
Yeah. I heard that. I heard that was Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Now I will say, to answer the question directly, I can't tell the difference. I can't always tell the difference.
Yeah.
There are two moments in this film that I think are just phenomenal moments. I think they're both Snyder moments, though I'm not sure about that. Those two moments are when Superman looks out of the corner of his eye to see Flash.
Oh, man.
That's an amazing scene.
That's because, I mean, Flash, his face, because, I mean, of course, by that time, we're assuming, of course, right now, we're assuming he hasn't seen, like, Reverse Flash or Professor Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So that's probably his first time being like, hold up.
Yeah.
What's
going on?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's an amazing scene. There's also the scene where, it's really one of the only scenes where we get to see Batman kicking ass, because most of the time he's like kind of like, I'm not super, you know, like, somebody protect me. But the scene where he comes in swinging to attack the parademons, and near the end, that seems like a directly Zack Snyder shot. So I don't know if it was Joss that was inspired by Zack to create a Zack Snyder shot, but that like whole sequence is phenomenally filmed.
And the good thing about Joss, and of course, you know, he did Avengers and stuff, and I can see business-wise where Warner Brothers was like, we need this guy because he's done it twice before. And after watching Avengers, the second Avengers, Age of Ultron again, I really don't know where all the hate came from.
Yeah.
I was like, when I watched it again, I was like,
it's a good movie.
I mean, it's not the first one, but the first one is the first one because of the emotion. Like the second one, I was like, it's pretty solid. I'm not like mad at this. I'm not. So I see why they brought him in, but also Joss Whedon is able to kind of, like, from a designer standpoint, able to go into someone's style guide and still work.
Yes.
Like, there's some artists that they have to, like, I can only do it when I feel the inspiration, and I can only paint then. There's some people that can be like, okay, what's your style guide? Look at it for an hour or two and be like, cool, all right, I got it. I can work here.
Yeah.
And Joss Whedon is that guy. And I think that's one of the reasons, because, you know, like Quentin Tarantino wouldn't have been able to do that because, I mean, he can't play in anyone else's sandbox.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so there's only a couple of directors that can. And of course, the cachet that Joss Whedon's name holds, it's business-wise, I understand.
Right.
Yeah, there could have been some other cool directors but I think business-wise, Joss Whedon, it makes sense. And also, regardless, I hate to say this because DC is in the doghouse, I feel whoever they picked, people would have hated it. People would have hated it.
Oh,
They'd be like, I can't believe they chose that director.
Yeah.
No matter who they chose.
They actually picked one of the safest people they could possibly pick, if you think about it from that context.
Yeah, like they could have chose, and this would have been weird now that I think about it, they could have chose Scorsese, and people would be like, oh, that's a horrible director. Even though I kind of want to see it, even though that movie would have been like 3.5 hours.
Oh my gosh!
You know who I think would have been good was
it all would have happened in New York.
I think Favreau would have done a good job with it.
Ooh,
John Favreau.
Could be. I feel like if you are a director and you're told this director has been working on the story, it's this. By the way, we don't like this. Please rewrite all the dialogue you can, and then do all the reshoots.
Oh yeah, and the movie is due.
And the movie, and we're not changing the due date. I mean, to tell a director that, first of all, to have the confidence that you can fix it, or to have the confidence that, like, it doesn't really matter what I do because I'm amazing anyways, and I'm gonna still make my money in the next thing. That's ridiculous. There's only a certain amount of people that can actually do that.
Yeah, because from a business standpoint, there's probably a lot of directors that they probably reached out to and they were like,
Forget
so
it.
you're not pushing the movie back?
Yeah.
Exactly. No way.
Exactly.
Like, or how much do you want to reshoot? And we're not moving it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, 100%.
And Josh was probably like, I can do this. They probably paid him a lot.
Yeah.
And he probably lost a lot of sleep. But they got it done in a movie where I'm like, wow, a big step up from what you've been doing. You can tell this is the turning point movie, but I think it's a turning point in a good direction.